Yo, 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 welcome to Hoop Nerds. We're a couple nerds, talk nothing but basketball. I'm your host, as always, Mikey Prince, aka Kid with Game.
What's going on? It's Hugo, aka Juice. How's everybody doing today?
Hey, man, welcome back. Welcome back. We missed you last week.
Appreciate it. A little bit under the weather, but I'm back now.
All right, man, just so you know, we only get one sick day and you use yours way too early.
That's fine by me.
All right, man. So we got a lot to talk about today. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the Eastern Conference's hot start for some of these teams that we didn't expect them to. We have to ask a big question: the Cavaliers struggling. How important is Jimmy Butler to the Timberwolves? Are the 76ers cursed? Why isn't Eric Bledsoe traded yet? And is Blake Griffin now better without CP3? So let's start right off from the top and let's talk about this Eastern Conference. As of right now, this early in the season, we're just about 10 games in, a little more, a little less. The top three teams in the East right now are the Boston Celtics, Detroit Pistons, and the Orlando Magic.
Yeah. I mean, Boston, we kind of saw coming up there before the season started. I don't think we would have saw them this high after the Hayward injury, but definitely Orlando, Detroit. That's a little bit of a surprise. I mean, I don't see how these rosters are this good. I honestly think they're flukes. Don't get me wrong, I got Aaron Gordon as my most improved player this year, but I don't think these teams are built to keep going. Is it good to watch right now? Definitely. I just don't think it'll last. What do you think about it?
Well, I think the Orlando Magic is the biggest surprise, but I do think that their young core, that core of the Orlando Magic has been there for a while. So I guess that's why the chemistry for them has started a little earlier than we thought would happen. So I guess that's why they are playing a little great. Detroit is this in the similar boat. Their core has been there for a while now, and a few years ago they actually made the playoffs, and you thought that they were going to be a playoff team, but then they ended up getting worse. But so far in the beginning this early season for Detroit, this is the most games we've seen Reggie Jackson, Andre Drummond, and Tobias Harris play together. So now I think we're this early in the season, we're finally seeing what this team could do when they're healthy and they're on the court together. And that's what I like about Detroit. And I think they're one of the surprises. Um, I don't know if I would say Orlando is becoming a playoff team this early. I think it's just because of the chemistry and they know how to play that they're off to a good start. I think Detroit's really the biggest team, and I think they actually can make the playoffs with their role that they're going in because we're seeing a healthy Detroit. We're seeing Andre Drummond shoot free throws. You can't hack and shack Andre Drummond. He's gonna hit free throws now so far this early in the season, and I think that plays a big part.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like you said, going back to their big three, playing together, we're finally getting a taste of what it should have been. So that's definitely a plus. I mean, they're on a 3-game win streak, so hopefully, I mean, I personally think it's gonna end tonight. They're they're playing the Lakers, so we'll see how that goes. But
Well, they beat the Warriors.
I know, it's just me being biased as a Laker fan. Um, but no, I mean they gotta on paper an easy win against LA, but LA could be surprising. So tonight will definitely, you know, be interesting. The Magic though, Aaron Gordon, Ross, all of those guys are they're just balling right now. Like there's no
Hmm.
way to get around it. You know what I'm saying? Like they're playing lights out. They just destroyed the Cavs a couple games ago.
Hmm.
So
They beat the
it's
Spurs.
yeah, they beat the Spurs. So it's like whoa, like where's this coming from? Um, I mean, then again, like the Spurs, they are doing well, but they're missing Kawhi. The Cavs just don't look like themselves. They're not even in the top 8 in the playoffs right now. So that's like, is that going to continue? Are they going to fix it? What's going on there? Because there's no other roster moves they have to make.
Right.
They're dealing pretty much with just one injury. So this is the team, and they're not doing good. So I could definitely see LeBron leaving at the end of the year too. But I mean, don't sleep on Boston. Boston's on 5 straight.
Yeah.
Boston's on 5
Boston.
straight.
Boston was a team that everybody had high hopes for. Gordon Hayward goes down, then everybody kind of lost faith in Boston. Now Boston is, Kyrie's really carrying this young team, and they're playing really well. 5 straight win streak right now. They're definitely a team that, they lost a man, but they have pieces that stepped up big time.
And another team we're not really talking about Memphis. Memphis leading the West right now at 5-2. So that's another team to keep an eye on. I mean, we've seen this from Memphis before, where they're at the top, of the conference, and then they drop back down. So it's not too surprising. But without Zach Randolph and with Mike Conley and Gasol playing pretty well, that's an interesting team to watch as well.
They are, and what I've liked about Memphis, I think that Marc Gasol right now, I think this is the prime year of Marc Gasol. He's 33 years old. He's playing the best basketball last season. This season, he's starting off to a great start. So you have the best in Mike Conley right now. You have the best in Marc Gasol right now, and they're off to a hot start. If that continues, great. If it doesn't, because you have such a great asset right now, Marc Gasol, does he finish the year with the Memphis Grizzlies?
I don't know. That could be another move like with Powell. They could probably move him just like his brother. Who knows? Maybe a contender, needs a guy like Mark and goes out and gets him if Memphis does go crashing by the All-Star break. But it only time can tell. But we've seen this from them before, so it's one of those like we're not too shocked, but it's kind of surprising because we haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah, and they're off to a great start this year that we wasn't really expecting.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're definitely a team to look out for in the West, just to see how well they could build, and if they fall, if they're hit the panic mode and what they plan to do after that. But they are very exciting to watch, and they are definitely reached certain high expectations this early in the season. And you get
definitely.
Chandler Parsons that's healthy, and he could be the Chandler Parsons that they were hoping to get when they gave him the big contract a few years ago.
Yeah, all those teams that gave him all this money for no reason. I'm still not a fan of them, but that's a side point. One of the most overpaid players in the league. But yeah, I mean, Memphis is definitely interesting to watch. So it's gonna be a fun season. I mean, the way that it's looking so far and shaping up, it's definitely a shocking season,
Right.
especially with the Knicks winning 3 straight.
That's right. The Knicks. The Knicks. Well, they are winning. I love the win against the Cleveland. That was a big win for them. The Nuggets was a good win, but they lost a huge lead and they had to fight back for it. So I like that these Knicks are winning. I'm a Knicks fan. I wore the hat today because they won 3 straight. But it does make you wonder how much Porzingis really has left, because for these 3 wins, he scored 30+ points in all 3 games. And then he really doesn't have that much help either. And then you have Tim Hardaway, who against the Cavs played great, was on a 4-game vacation because he didn't show up the first 4 games, popped up against the Cavs, and then went on a 3-quarter vacation and decided to show up in the 4th last night. So you really don't know how long the Porzingis could hold up the scoring load, and you don't know when he's actually going to get help. And that's a big thing.
The help, I definitely agree with. I think he could keep it up all year. I mean, Porzingis is young. He's hard to guard. 7-footer pulling up from half court. So I think he's all right. I think he'll hold his own. I think he'll finish the year averaging like 25. So that's not the issue. It's just like you said, with the help around them. Is Tim Hardaway finally going to be consistent like he was with all these other teams in the past that he wasn't for the Knicks when he first started and now when he's back? So that's the big X factor for the Knicks. If they want at least a decent record, Tim Hardaway needs to be more consistent. If not, it's just going to be the Porzingis show, and it's not going to go well with him. He's not going to want to stay there too long.
Yeah, well, $71 million. You have to step up.
Exactly.
All right, so jumping in, you mentioned earlier about the Cavs. So the Cavs have now lost 3 in a row. They lost their last 4 out of 5 games. So it's early in the season, but we have to ask, are the Cavs struggling, or is just the typical Cavs that they don't care about the regular season and then the playoff time comes and they're a whole different team? Or is this something we really got to be worried about?
We got to be worried. Their defense is atrocious. Their defense is atrocious. I mean, they are not playing any defense. Like it's bad. We thought this team, like, oh yeah, look, they got a lot of defensive help with these guys and these guys, and they just look bad.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? LeBron does ease through the playoffs, but he doesn't let the team get this bad.
Right. Right.
I don't think I think it's been once before we've seen a 3-game losing streak from him. I don't think we've seen this too many times from him. So it's one of these where it's like he's not going to talk about it too much. I don't think he's worrying about it too much because I feel like he's on the verge of saying, "Yo, I'm out of here anyway after this year." Um, so to him, it's one of those, let's build up this roster. We make the run. If we don't make the run, then I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
But there's definitely calls for concern with that team because that defense is just. I mean, losing 3 straight just pretty much tells you that defense is really bad.
Yeah.
Really,
Well,
really bad.
they in previous years they've never been much of a great defensive team, but they were always a good offensive team. And I said this year that one of the biggest drops from last season to this season, or even the preseason before that, is they lost 3-point shooting a lot. They're starting 5. Now that Dwayne Wade went to the bench, he moved J.R. Smith. You really only have J.R. Smith and Kevin Love. That's your 3-point shooters, and that's really it. Derrick Rose is a 3-point shooter. They decided to bring Tristan Thompson back as a starting lineup. That's another thing too. Cleveland played 7 or 8 games already, and they have already changed their lineup 5 times.
Yep.
And yes, you don't have Isaiah Thomas yet. Derrick Rose got an ankle injury earlier. You had LeBron James playing point for a couple of games. Jose Calderon, who was your third string point guard, was now playing backup point guard. They have a lot of players that were being used this early in the season because of the injury bug, and you still don't have your main guy that you traded Kyrie Irving for, which is Isaiah Thomas. And another thing with Cleveland is they're old. I mean, LeBron James brought back Dwayne Wade because they had such success in Miami, but LeBron's 33 and Dwayne Wade's 35. So now you really don't know what type of chemistry or how well you can have a Dwayne Wade and LeBron James for throughout the course of the whole season, because age is a factor for this team. When your two best players, arguably your two best players, are, one is not in his prime anymore, and the other one is probably at the peak of his prime.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, don't get me wrong, LeBron's still LeBron, but definitely that acquisition of Wade was a little bit of a question mark. It was more of, is this just like a friendship call, like, hey, just come play with me?
Mm-hmm.
Or is this, I want to win and I feel like you can make me win? I don't think it was one of those, you can make me win. Dwayne Wade, I don't think, can make a team win anymore. And it's not a diss to him, future Hall of Famer, still one of the best, but he's not that it factor that they needed. Right. He's not an it factor, I think, on any team that he would go to. Like, he could go on any team right now and he won't matter. I mean, at this point, it's still early, but he could turn that around. But I mean, it's not looking good for them. And like you said, with the 3-point shooting, I mean, they have some weapons here and there, but until Isaiah Thomas comes back and he's in the starting lineup, they're down a shooter. I mean, it's not too bad. Honestly, it's not too bad.
Right.
Because you take out Rose for Kyrie and you're only missing one 3-point shooter. And I feel like they got more 3-point shooting depth on the bench than they had years prior. But nobody's knocking shots down. And that defense, like you said, they haven't been great like in previous years, but this year is just like awful. They've never been awful. And this year is just really, really, really bad.
Right. And even if you watch their offense, I mean, in previous years, it was really let LeBron James attack, and there was always someone you could kick it out. If you really watch the offense this year, everybody is just cutting to the basket at the same time, whatever. Like, you have Derrick Rose bumping into Dwayne Wade because they're both, slashers types. You have LeBron James, who's trying to kick it out, but he only has very few options who to kick it out to until the bench comes in, and you have guys like Kyle Korver that's going to come in, Shumpert, who isn't a great 3-point shooter, but they can't come in. But I don't know, they're not. I think this is a struggle that you do have to have a little concern for the Cavaliers so far this early in the season, because this isn't, even though it's, you could say, all typical Cavs, they're just, cruising through the season. They don't care about seedings because once they make the playoffs, they're gonna, turn on that switch and start balling. But I don't know. The games they did lose to aren't games that, no matter how early or late you are in the season, you shouldn't be losing to teams like the Knicks and the Nets and Orlando, even though they're playing well. But these
Yeah,
aren't teams you should be losing to at any point in the
exactly.
season.
Exactly. And it's just games like that where no matter what, LeBron wouldn't allow his team to lose. Whether he didn't care or he did care about the seeding, he wouldn't allow them to lose, first off, three straight, 4 out of 5, and to the teams that they lost to,
Yeah.
all in a row. It's not happening on LeBron's watch. So it just makes me question, like, is LeBron just throwing in the towel this year? Is the Cavs team really that bad? Like, there's just so many question marks around there that it's still too early to really kind of tell.
Yeah, I mean we'll see. We'll watch them and see how when they decide to turn on that switch. Let's stay in the
Pretty much.
East. Let's stay in the East Coast for now and let's talk about the 76ers. And the 76ers, we have to ask if they're cursed. Because the last few years, they have gotten the number one picks. And all their last few number one picks has been injured their rookie season. And now you lost Ben Simmons for a year. You lost Joel Embiid for a year. Even when they had Norris Noel, he didn't play for a while. Now they got Markel Fultz, who was playing. He actually was playing, but he had a bad shoulder. And then they were saying that he had to get it injected. His agent was saying he got an injection for it, and it completely destroyed his shooting form. He came into the league as being a perimeter 3-point scorer for the 76ers. He hasn't taken a single 3-point attempt in the games he's played so far. So now they shut him down. He's out 3 weeks with the shoulder injury. He's out indefinitely. Could be longer.
Yeah, it could be longer. I would agree. I think they are cursed. I don't know. Well, I don't know if it's cursed. I don't know if it's the training staff. I don't know what it is. Um, I mean, if you think about it, these injuries are kind of freak injuries. I mean, Ben Simmons breaks his foot. Joel Embiid had the same issue with his foot over and over and over. Nerlens Noel, you can't really say it was a curse on the Sixers because they drafted him while injured.
Yeah.
He was already recovering from the ACL injury when they drafted him. So it wasn't like, oh, we picked him up and he tore it. I mean, I just think it is bad luck and it is a little bit of a bad judgment. Um, I mean, Markel Fultz came in to be this 20-point per game scorer right away, and his stroke, his free throw shooting, his motion is just ugly. I mean, ugly. Like, you look at the way he shoots, and it's nowhere near how he looked shooting
Yeah.
in college. So you have to question: did he make that change on his own? Did the Sixers tell him to change his stroke? Like,
Well, the
it's a
shooting
question.
form was because of the shoulder injury. He said the shoulder made him adjust the way he shot it. But then that led to the question that if you're the 76ers medical staff or whoever, and you know that he has to adjust to his game because of shoulder pains, why would you even let him continue to play from the beginning?
Don't you think it's a little convenient though that, like, oh, I'm doing bad, let me all of a sudden have a shoulder injury? Um, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's lying about it, of course. Um, but I feel like if you had this shoulder injury, you shouldn't have been playing from the get.
Right.
Um, you shouldn't change your stroke, especially if that's what made you the number one pick in the NBA draft,
Hmm.
is only because of your scoring. You don't change what got you there.
Right.
So if you're hurt, you let them know, look, I'm hurt. I'm gonna try to shoot the way I can, but look, it's hurting me. I can't shoot the same way. Let me rest. Don't just
Right.
say, oh, I can't shoot that way no more. All right, let me try to change it. You change it, you see you're doing terrible, and you're still not gonna ask to sit. I mean, I don't know, something's just not adding up. But I would agree they are they are pretty bad luck.
Yeah. I mean, they are. They lost, but as a team, what's been impressive is Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid so far. They they lost three straight, and then they ended up winning the last three out of four after that. But the play of Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, this is a duo that is so hand in hand, working so well together. And I really like seeing these two play.
Yeah, Ben Simmons is the real deal. I mean, I liked him since college, and I was hoping that he would have dropped to number two last year when we took Ingram, but it is what it is. You know, he's gonna be a monster, and right now he's winning Rookie of the Year. But he's definitely looking exactly what they thought he would look like.
Yeah,
He's not a shooter, which is fine. Um, but he's a triple threat. He's a triple double threat day in and day out.
yeah.
No matter
And
what, he's
he
gonna
he
go
he
get
already
you
got a triple
rebounds.
double. Triple double.
Exactly. He's gonna get it for you day in and day out. If not, he's gonna be damn near close.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, and Joel Embiid has been a beast so far with the 76ers. I mean, and we all knew going into the season that if the 76ers were going to take advantage of a weaker Eastern Conference and make the playoffs, it was going to start with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. And they are definitely living up to it. What I also like is that the other pieces they got have been blended in well with this team as well, like a JJ Redick, Amir Johnson, Jared Bayless, who now becomes a starting point guard, which I love because I always thought Jared Bayless was a score first guy, and with Ben Simmons having the ball, being the primary ball handler, you let Jared Bayless be a shooter. I mean, you basically put a bunch of shooters around Ben Simmons and let Ben Simmons be Ben Simmons, and this team is actually playing really well. They have a lot of close ending games. You know, they don't necessarily like take care of business early and beat teams right away. It always comes down to the wire type thing, but that's just growth and I guess learning and you know player development and all that. But they are being very exciting to watch.
Yeah, they are. Joel Embiid's just proven to be Joel Embiid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he can be a threat to score all game, so that's definitely a plus for them. They got their scorer, they got their passer, and Ben Simmons. So definitely something to keep an eye on for years to come. That duo, because you get them a little bit more help, they're gonna be dangerous.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Yep. Let's move on to the West because there's something I wanted to talk about that I noticed last week that I thought would be interesting. And that's the Timberwolves, and the Timberwolves. You know, the Timberwolves started off a little rocky at first. They had a great win against OKC where Andrew Wiggins hit a buzzer beater, controversial ending, but is a win's a win. Uh, but then Jimmy Butler gets hit with the flu. He misses the next two games. After that amazing win against OKC, he misses the next two games and the Timberwolves get blown out by Indiana and Detroit. Then he comes back and they have their rematch against OKC and he basically just changed the whole culture of the Timberwolves and they were able to win that game and they won last night in overtime against Miami. So without Jimmy Butler, the Timberwolves are 0-2. With them, they're 4-1. So then that question is, how important is Jimmy Butler to this Timberwolves team?
He's very important. He's their most valuable player, but we knew that coming into the season. And the reason we knew that is because without Butler, what have they done? Since Karl Anthony Towns has come, um, this is his third year. I mean, there was always talk. Okay, now they can move up. Okay, now they can move up. Okay, but they're not doing nothing. Jimmy Butler goes out. They didn't do anything. They look like the old Timberwolves. So I mean, that's a given of how important he is.
Right.
Only because you knew this was the missing piece to get them over that hump, and it's just proving it. I mean, there's no way there's no way around that.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Butler now and till he's gone is gonna be that X factor. He's gonna be their MVP. He's gonna be their veteran, that vocal leader, that game changer, the one to say, "All right, we're gonna go from a non-playoff team to a top 5, top 4 seed." And that's a given. I mean, I think he's extremely important and the most important player on their team. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think just not only just because of his skill set, but I think the veteran of Jimmy Butler. Because Jimmy Butler he's been coached by Tom Thibodeau. That's the reason why that trade worked so well because he was bringing back reunited with the head coach that started Jimmy Butler's success in Chicago. So you're reunited with that. You bring back a veteran all star that knows how your coach wants to run plays, how he wants to play defense. That's another thing too. When he left, Timberwolves their defense was just awful. Those two games that Jimmy Butler was out, he comes back. They're not like cruising through victories. Their next two games were against OKC and Miami, but you could tell that the defense became a priority when Jimmy Butler came back. You could tell he's that ear that the players need. And then you do have other veterans like Jamal Crawford and Jeff Teague and Taj Gibson. But I think Jimmy Butler being when he came to the league being defensive first and then transitioning into an all-star player, I think that is what makes him so valuable to the Timberwolves and to their success, because we do need them to make the playoffs. They're one of the few teams in the NBA that still has made the playoffs in consecutive years. I think their streak is 13 or 11, something like that now, and you want them to make the playoffs, and Jimmy Butler has to stay healthy. He has to be part. And don't get me wrong, Karl-Anthony Towns is a huge piece for them to make the playoffs. Not just Jimmy Butler, because you need Karl-Anthony Towns' leadership, the way he could take over games. That's important. You need Andrew Wiggins to be a consistent scorer and to finish his shots and all that. So the three of them play a huge role. But I feel like Jimmy Butler, his role is more of being a leader than it is being what he brings to the actual game itself.
Yeah, and that I agree with, and that's why I said I think he's, the most important player, only because of that leadership and that veteran. They're not asking him to go out there and score the most points or grab
Right.
the most rebounds, but they're asking him to bring that presence where when you go out and you play the Timberwolves without Butler, you're like, all right, it's Towns and Wiggins. They're gonna score, but they ain't got nobody else. When you bring in Butler in the picture, it's okay. You got Towns and Wiggins. You also have Butler who could go off for 30 as well. Who are we guarding? You know what I'm saying? So, and maybe I'm being a little biased as far as saying Butler's the most important because we've seen Butler go out and they lose two straight badly.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it's the same effect if Wiggins goes down or Towns goes down. So, I mean, since they haven't, maybe that's why I'm saying he's the most important player. But I do feel like maybe if any one of those three go down, I think it's going to look like the same old Timberwolves.
Right.
I definitely think you need all three of those guys to be successful. You need all three of those guys to click to continue to go on, the playoff run that they need to go on. So it's still early, but I don't think they have any problems going into that playoff run.
Yeah, I mean, we're early into the season. We're only a few, 10 games in. So, but you could see where certain teams are really starting to come together as a team, where they're falling off, where they need improvement. So the Timberwolves definitely has some improvement to go, but that's a team that we all have high expectations for coming into this season, and they are playing on a very difficult, stacked Western Conference.
Exactly.
But speaking about the West, last week, I did an episode where I talked about Eric Bledsoe, and I talked about my 4 teams where I'd like to get traded to, because he has asked for a trade, and the Phoenix Suns are looking for a trade for him. And it came to the point where he's not even playing any games for the Phoenix Suns. They send him home until he gets traded. Kind of like what happened when T-Mac got traded from Houston, and Jason Kidd got traded from New Jersey to the Mavericks. They don't play them. So now this is going to the second week now of the Eric Bledsoe thing, and he hasn't been traded yet. So it really asks a question to why is Eric Bledsoe just sitting at home and no one has made any offers, or the Phoenix Suns haven't signed off on anything yet.
He doesn't want to be there. So why would an organization that knows he publicly doesn't want to be there bring him back? If you're going to pay him anyway, let him stay home. He don't want to be here, let him stay home. That messes up his trade stock. So yeah, you may not get nothing for it, but you're not rewarding him for wanting out. Have you noticed anytime a player gets requested trade nowadays, it has to be where they want to go?
Right.
No, like if it was me, you're gonna stay here. You're gonna suffer. You're gonna suffer, and if you don't want to play, then you can sit right on that bench. You're gonna get the Eddie Curry treatment. Remember Eddie Curry making 18 million a year, sitting on that bench? Stephon Marbury, that whole all-star team of the Knicks, getting sit on the bench to make all that money. You don't want to be here, so sit right there and watch us play. I mean, it's to the point where all these guys feel entitled. Oh, I don't want to be here, so these guys got to trade me to where I want to go. No, that's not how it works. This is a business. They're gonna trade you to wherever they want to trade you.
Right.
You could end up going from Phoenix to Sacramento. How you gonna feel about that?
Hmm.
You're not gonna want to be there neither. But guess what? You got out of Phoenix. Then what? You're gonna be like, damn, I wish I would have stood there. So at the end of the day, I mean, it's kind of off topic, but same thing with the in football. There's a wide receiver right now that wants to be traded from the Steelers, and what did they do? Go to the practice squad. We're not trading you. Plain and simple. You're not gonna play, and that's what Phoenix is doing, and it's smart because it brings these guys back to reality. Seeing all these guys like Jimmy Butler, um, Kyrie, Melo, PG getting asking for trades publicly and getting places that they don't mind or want to go.
Hmm.
The Suns, I love what they're doing. I love it. I love it. You don't want to be here? Cool. Go home. You're not here. You're home. But you ain't gonna go where you want to go. So
Right.
I mean, Eric Bledsoe is a lucky guy getting paid not to do anything, but you're not just gonna sit here and get traded somewhere. Don't get me wrong. There was talks of him going to Milwaukee, but they want Brogdon back in
Hmm.
any type of trade. Um, I don't see what assets this team would trade, but I could see him ending up in Cleveland. Not knowing when Isaiah Thomas is coming back, um, seeing that Derrick Rose already got hurt early in the year. You never know when that's gonna happen again. Um, I wouldn't mind. I mean, they share the same agent, LeBron and Bledsoe. They're always
Right.
working together in the offseason. So LeBron could pull magic a rabbit out of his hat. So you can't sleep on that. But I definitely agree with what the Suns are doing, and I think it's one of those lessons where in about another week or two, you may hear him change his mind and say, you know what, I'll be here. Let them win about another 2, 3 games, and he'll probably change his mind to say he wants to come back. Why
Right.
do you think he's not traded?
I agree with everything you said. I do agree that yeah, the Phoenix, they're trying to teach him a little lesson and so not letting him play to increase his his trade value by playing. But another issue that I do have is I feel like the Phoenix Suns might be asking too much for to get a guy like Eric Bledsoe. Don't get me wrong. I think Eric Bledsoe is a great player. I think he could be. He's an all-star type of player, even though he's never been there because of there's so many great point guards ahead of him, but he does play like one, and I think he does change a culture of a team in terms of your direction you want to go because he is a guy that can help change a team. He can help score. But with that being said, I don't see him worth like, yeah, he could go to Cleveland, but is he really worth Brooklyn's first round pick that the Phoenix Suns want for Eric Bledsoe? Because don't forget, Phoenix Suns, they're not the Orlando Magic or Detroit Pistons. No one has them going to the playoffs, and that's not changing. So now, do you really want to give Phoenix their first round pick and Brooklyn's first round pick that could potentially be they could potentially go into next year's draft with 2 top 10 picks? So that's something, and for a guy like Eric Bledsoe, which in my opinion, I don't think he's worth that much that you lose. Um, I would love to see him into Milwaukee. Uh, I don't know if yeah, that Malcolm, that's who they want for him. Just in terms of rebuilding, does Milwaukee want to take that risk of losing a young core that they were developing to getting a now set ready NBA player in Eric? I don't know. That's something that I would like to see him go to Milwaukee, but I don't. I think they're asking for too much for a guy like Eric Bledsoe, and because they're not letting him play, there are teams out there that now don't want to give too much for him, and that became a big issue for both sides, for both the Phoenix Suns and Eric Bledsoe, because now you're trying to teach him a lesson, sure, but at the same time, you're not helping your team out either in terms of hurting the trade value for a guy that could get traded.
Yeah, I mean, and I completely agree. Um, it's one of those situations that's kind of iffy.
Right.
It's hard, but I mean, there's nothing we can do. And I mean, this may tie into our next topic, but who knows with their point guard out, maybe he makes his way back to the Clippers.
Right. I mean, the Clippers, that in terms of what you're saying, how players want to go where they want to go, he actually wants to go to the Clippers. He wants to be back, which
I
I would
know.
love. I would love to see him and Patrick Beverley in that backcourt because I think that would be a great backcourt. Because that to me will be not necessarily the same level, but that's kind of like a Curry and Klay Thompson, where you have the defender and the scorer in your backcourt. So you have the guy that's going to defend the best player, and then Eric Bledsoe is the guy that's going to give you the points. And that's something that I would love to see. And I would love to see that in the Clippers. Speaking of the Clippers, the Clippers
Exactly.
have started off on a very hot start this season, this early in the season. You lose Chris Paul, the franchise player for the Clippers, or I guess the leader of the Clippers, you want to say. They almost lost Blake Griffin because they were both aged at the same time. The Griffin decides to re-sign 5 years, $100 and a lot of $1 million. So now you have Blake Griffin being the vocal point, the main leader for this team, and he has done a very great job at doing that. I mean, this guy came in and he became basically like a point forward. He became an everything for this team. He's an all around player, and they're off to this hot start. So then it starts to wonder. You have to ask now: is Blake Griffin better off without Chris Paul?
I always thought so, and not trying to rub it in or nothing, but did I not call that the Clippers were going to be perfectly fine without Chris Paul? Um, they re-upped. They re-upped. They added this Clippers team has more depth than they've ever had before. More depth from top to bottom in that lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you, I'm gonna pronounce his name wrong. Tessadich, whatever that point guard's name is from overseas. You're not missing nothing from dropping from Chris Paul to him. You're not. You're not missing anything. Oh, the scoring. Blake Griffin's there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need him to score. You also got Gallo. You don't need the point guard to score no more. He's doing everything that Chris Paul was doing, but better as far as passing wise. Get
Right.
these guys open. But he's hurt, and that's the only reason why I see, going back to our last topic, Eric Bledsoe coming there. But other than that, these Clippers, although they lost their last two, that's not a cause for concern. They are gonna be perfectly fine. And honestly, I still see them as a top 5 or 4 seed in the West. That team just got better by getting rid of Chris Paul. And a lot of people are gonna look at me stupid, like, how? It shows. It really shows.
Mm-hmm.
This team gave up one person for 8. And even if they waived half of those 8 guys, you still got 4 great role players, potential starters.
Mm-hmm.
So what did they really lose out on? Then you go get this guy from overseas who does everything Chris Paul does in the passing game, but better. It's not a knock on Chris Paul, future Hall of Famer, one of the best point guards you've ever seen. But this guy is just a passer, period. And that's exactly what this Clippers team needed, was just a passer. Not a scoring point guard, a passer.
Mm-hmm.
And now that they got that, the focal point is, all right, can DeAndre score? Can Blake score? Can Gallo score? Can these guys score? And they are. And that's exactly what I thought they would do, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, and
exactly what they're doing.
A big thing I noticed about the Clippers as well this season is, unlike previous years when they had the Lob City era and all that, there's no high expectations on this team. Because I think in previous years, the last 2 seasons, more to be exact, really, they had that cloud of they have to get out the first round. Especially last season when they kind of loaded. They had a good team last season. The question was always, can they finally make it to the Western Conference Finals? Are they a challenge for the Warriors? And it was, we saw the same thing over and over again. So I think when they took out Chris Paul from that equation, they took out other key players from previous years like JJ Redick and Jamal Crawford. Now, I think all those expectations went away. Now it's just they could just play. And even though they have no expectations, I think now they're actually playing better without looking at this team and saying this team has to make the Western Conference Finals. Now they could just play, and that's where really the huge success is coming from this Clippers team. They have no pressure on them other than just to play basketball. And Blake Griffin has been the shine for that. No expectations. It's just he can just go out, be Blake Griffin. He could be the Blake Griffin that maybe some people argue that Chris Paul was holding back Blake Griffin from being this Blake Griffin, because Chris Paul always had the ball in his hands and it was always a lob pass, or wait till the shot clock runs out to find that perfect pass type play. And now you just have Blake Griffin just posting you up. He could find the right pass. He's dunking on my Defensive Player of the Year candidate.
He's hitting game-winning 3-pointers.
Yes.
I mean, come on.
The Clippers are definitely a team to look out for this season. The big question, as I'm going to stick to, is that Blake Griffin and Daniel Gallinari has to stay healthy.
Yep.
So those are the two guys that you have that has to be able to play. I feel like one injury from those two and it really will change the culture of that team a little bit. But for now, because they're healthy and you see what they could do together, I think the Clippers are going to be fine and they can make the playoffs the way they're playing.
Yeah, of course, and I saw that coming. It's just one of those where sometimes you have to. It's gonna be a little funny the way I say this, but sometimes you got to get rid of your best player to get better,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of see that with the Pacers. It's a little bit off topic going back to the East, but
Mm-hmm.
Oladipo is balling.
Yep.
Man, that dude is balling. But you get rid of Paul George, and other players step up. You got rid of Chris Paul, and all these guys are stepping up, and that's what you need. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? That's what you need sometimes. So it's definitely good to see. Is good basketball. I'm still hating because they're the better LA team, but it's all right. It's all right. We'll be there soon.
Hey, the Lakers are fine. Lakers are going to be that young team that's going to rebuild and become that team again. Maybe not this season, but they could definitely be that team. Oh, but yeah, speaking of teams getting better, losing players, gaining players. Even though we did talk about Chris Paul going to Houston, the Rockets are still one of the top teams in the West right now. But that's without Chris Paul. Chris Paul is out with a knee injury. He might be gone for a month or maybe like 3 weeks now. But now you have James Harden being the James Harden of last year without Chris Paul, and then that team is just being last year's team because they're still the same core player guys. So now when Chris Paul does come back, does it hurt? Is it going to hurt the team?
Yes, and that's exactly what we spoke about in our second episode after we saw the Rockets play. Chris Paul does not fit on that team. Now, I don't want to say this, and I don't think it'll happen, but I'm going to say it anyway. Don't be surprised if Chris Paul gets traded by the trading block, by the trade deadline. I mean, a 1-year deal. And if this guy stays hurt and you're still they're the 3 seed. If this
Mm-hmm.
guy stays hurt and you're still a top 3 seed without him and you don't know if he's going to stay, trade him.
Right.
Same thing how the Clippers finessed the Rockets, trade him. Go get 3-4 guys. Go get some picks. You want to get technical? Let him go. Send them to the Cavs. Get that Brooklyn Nets pick, get Derrick Rose, and get a James Crowder. Let them have Chris Paul. Let them have the banana boat over there. Who knows? Who knows?
Right.
I'm not that's a foregone, like,
Right.
hypothetically speaking, but won't that be interesting? A shakeup?
Yep.
A
Yeah.
shakeup in the East and the West? Chris Paul always wanted to play with LeBron. LeBron always wanted to play with Chris Paul. You already have Dwayne Wade over there. Their point guards are hurt. You could go get Chris Paul. I mean, the Rockets are way better, which I said, without Chris Paul. So why not make that trade?
Right.
Why not do something like that? You could have Isaiah Thomas, or if they even trade Isaiah Thomas, but imagine Isaiah Thomas coming off the ball and being the scorer
Right.
to a James Harden. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It could work, but they're not gonna trade him. We know that. I just wanted to say that. But um, but yeah, I mean, I don't like the fit with 2 point guards. I don't like it at all. James Harden made his name last year playing the point, and then he just went out and got another ball dominant point guard. As soon as the trade happened, I said I didn't like it, and it's proven. I mean, the Rockets just need to let him go.
That's a team, definitely a team to watch. So real quick, I just want to get your thoughts on so far as early in the season. It doesn't have to be because of record wise, maybe because of just the way they're playing, whatever. I might already know your answer based on what you just said, but who is your disappointing team so far in the season?
Is a few. It's a few. I mean, Cleveland's disappointing. That's a given.
Right.
Um, but I might have to one up. I'm gonna say OKC. I mean, OKC's 3-3. Um, they've lost to some pretty not so good teams.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just I don't see how it's working. They look fun. They're fun to watch. Paul George isn't playing like Paul George.
Right.
Um, I mean, Westbrook is like not scared, not scared to play, but you could tell he's kind of holding something back. Um, it I don't know. I expected at least a 5-1 start.
Right. Right.
A 4-2 start, not 3-3. I mean, 3-3 is not going to cut it in the West. So
Right.
they're pretty disappointing in my book. But it would have to be between them, the Cavs, and another team, the Nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
They went from a top 5 offense last year to nothing. They're not scoring like they were.
Mm-hmm.
But that could, I mean, most disappointing team could get thrown to so many teams. Who do you got?
I have OKC as well because I've watching their games. I think their biggest question mark for me watching them this season is their offense. To me, when I watch OKC, I don't see an offense. I see just Westbrook, Melo, and Paul George just taking turns ISO, and that's really all I've like. You rarely see ball movement. As soon as one of them get the ball in their hands, it's just clear out. I'm going to score. Melo always wants the ball on the post, and then it's just everybody runs the other side for ISO Melo. Something we've been seeing for years from him. We've seen that. Paul George gets the ball at the top of the key or anywhere from the 3-point line. Everybody moves out, and he just wants to out dribble you or whatever. You hit him on the ball to Westbrook, he's just gonna go full speed and attack. So I mean, it's very rare you see great ball movement from them. Actually, I don't even want to use the word great because I don't think I've seen a single play from those great ball movement. Maybe from their bench, not even from the big three alone. But that to me that bothers me because yes, they're a team that do have high expectations, and you want them to start gelling and clicking and learn how to play with one another. But it starts with their ball movement and how well they could play. Another team for me that's been a little bit disappointment is the Pelicans, and I know that they even though because I've said I have the Pelicans making the playoffs, and I still don't see how this team can make the playoffs without the two best big men in the NBA. But yes, you lost Rondo. I think what saved them, in my opinion, from being a completely disappointing team was when they brought Jameer Nelson onto their team, because Jameer Nelson became what Rondo was supposed to be with Drew Holiday, that 1 and 2. So now you have that, and he just stepped up and he hits big shots. He gets the passes. He's looking for you, and that's what I love about the Pelicans. So they're disappointing in terms of how they started, but I think they're slowly coming along, and that's what I like to see from them.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't have them making the playoffs, so to me, it's one of those like, kind of saw this coming. Um, I don't know if Boogie's cursed with not making the playoffs or what, but it's just one of those like, who knows what's gonna happen type of team. So it's tough. Anthony Davis went down with an injury a couple of games ago, then came back. So that's always scary because you never know how healthy he's gonna be.
Right.
Because if he goes down, then it's pretty much just Boogie in Sacramento again.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's going on? But I, I don't see Boogie staying. Boogie's a free agent after this year. I mean, we didn't really have this topic to talk about future free agents, but I mean, just talking about those last two teams, I feel like it's kind of important to say. I don't think Boogie stays. I don't think Paul George stays. Paul George is having a pretty bad year compared to what he's accustomed to. And he
Right.
went into the season saying, I'm going to win MVP, and he looks like the complete opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my favorite play in the league, so it's kind of hard to see that happen. I don't think he likes being the third option. I don't think he likes it at all. So if he can go, to a team, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this because I'm a Laker fan, but if he could go to the Lakers, that's his ideal place. That's where he said he's wanted to play. That's where he's been open about it. And with a guy like Lonzo Ball, if you look at our team, it's kind of shifting momentum to a different topic. But if you look at the Laker team, they miss a lot of shots. And Lonzo gets all these guys open in great positions, and we miss too many shots.
Right.
We have no 3-point shooting. We have no shooting period. So it's tough. And if Paul George can go there and pretty much look at it and say, if I could go play with this guy that's so willing to pass the ball and they don't have that one guy that is their scorer. Because our leading scorer right now is Clarkson off the bench with like 15 or 16 a game.
Mm-hmm.
Paul George can be that guy. And I think that's what he wants. Be in his hometown, be that dude, and just go off. And it's situations like that where you look at it and you're like, I don't see this guy staying there. And then same thing with Boogie. Boogie just wants to win. And everywhere he goes, it's just an issue.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting rest of the season. Interesting. We thought last year's offseason was going to be interesting. This one got it beat coming up.
Well,
too many
free agents. Yep. There's too many.
Too many too many star free agents with Boogie, with Paul George, with LeBron, with Dwayne Wade, with Chris Paul. There's just so many that it's like, whoa, this is gonna be a major shakeup this year.
Mm-hmm.
Major shakeup. So it's gonna be fun. But before we get to that, this season for some superstars is a little rough so far.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll see if it plays out. Still very early in the season. Anything can happen. Any team could pull away. Any team could lose momentum. So we gotta watch and find out. Tonight's gonna be a good one. Tonight we have OKC and Bucks on NBA TV. That's gonna be fun to watch.
Greek Freak for MVP. Called it. Called it. It's happening before our eyes.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I agree. He's amazing. If he had just that one more extra help on that team, Eric Bledsoe, it would be a big.
I got you with help. Jabari Parker comes back.
Hey, I want to see that. I really want Jabari Parker to be the Jabari Parker
so
we know.
I'm telling you, Greek Freak. I'm predicting 35, 12, and about 7 assists tonight, with about 2 blocks and a steal.
Hey, we'll see. Ooh.
Yeah, if he hits that, I'm playing the lotto. You won't see me no more on Tuesdays. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be fun. That game is gonna be very interesting.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see how the season goes. So anyway, that's this episode of Hoop Nerds. Let us know in the comments below if you agree or disagree with any of today's topics. If you think Chris Paul should get traded or not, because that's pretty interesting. But let us know in the comments below. Also, let us know during the weeks what we should talk about. You can follow us on Twitter at Hoop Nerds. I'll have all that in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video, always give it a thumbs up. We always appreciate that. And if you're new to the channel and you like what we do here, hit that subscribe button. If we're just a couple nerds that like to talk basketball, so come talk basketball with us. All right. So as always,
feedback. Please let us know topics, anything. Let us know. You want to debate with us? We'll debate back. So
absolutely,
you know what to do, guys.
Absolutely. As always, I'm your host, Kid with Game.
And I'm Juice. All right. Just let us know and like the page. We'll see you guys next week.
All right, we'll catch you later.